Hi, everyone. My name is Yuva Murugan. I've been in product management for almost a decade now, and for the most part, absolutely love what I do despite all the struggles on a daily basis. I actually stumbled upon product management as a career choice through an internship where I didn't realize I was doing product management because I was responsible for actually building a tool, doing my research, and having it adopted by the end users, and even writing a very lengthy document. But I loved every minute of it, and I felt very content when I saw the smile on the people's face and when they said, that's exactly what we needed. Oh, this is going to make my life easier. So I've been around in product management across various industries. I moved to industries based on the problem that I would be solving and the challenges and what do I learn while I'm continuing to give. It's been across legal advertising to fitness mobile apps to employee engagement to the most recent, which is all around digital advisory solution that is being used by US financial advisors to actually serve their investors. So yes, that's a little bit about myself and my career so far. I would actually bucket them into a few categories. The first and foremost I generally look for during the interview process is a genuine passion and interest in the company and the user who the company is trying to save or serve, depending upon the type of product. Because you can really be good at product management, but if you're not passionate about the user and their problems, then you're not going to be your best. So that's the first skill. The second one is very much around critical thinking, which, if you break it down, it's going to be around analytical skills. But it is incomplete without your ability to evaluate the analytical data with qualitative data, where they're observing the customers, knowing how to understand the customers by asking questions or being empathetic when they are providing information. The most important one is ability problem solving, where they're able to break a complex problem into a very structured, smaller set of problems to determine the first set of problems to solve. But all of these are very visible through their communication skills. So you are going to talk to a lot of people and convince sometimes when needed, motivate people. So your ability to articulate the problem or even your own challenges that you're facing or be an advocate of the users require you to have really good communication skills. I'm not talking about your proficiency in the language, but how are you communicating? Are you able to motivate somebody by speaking? The third bucket is what I'm usually looking for or evaluating is based on their collaboration and a combination of leadership skills. You are an individual contributor, but end of the day, in order to be able to build and launch products, you need to collaborate with others. Sometimes let the others lead, while sometimes you need to very seamlessly take over and lead also, but not making others feel like you're running over them. So that's the kind of collaboration and leadership skills that I'm looking for. Coming from startup background, I didn't realize until I worked for a large company, you still need this no matter where you are you a self-starter? Do you have a curious mindset to be able to just figure out or be asking questions? I think I need to know this answer. I need to speak with that person versus waiting to be instructed. Nobody is going to come and tell you how to do your job. That's the biggest challenge. And you have to find motivation. You're going to have high days, you're going to have low days. You have to be self motivated. And those will be surfaced during an interview based on the projects you did, or how did you handle challenging situations, or just how well are you prepared for the interview itself, right? All these answers during your interview will surface these skills. But yeah, those are the different buckets that I look for. I personally think If you're passionate about the user and the problem and you want to make an impact, you're going to figure it out, how to do it, how to get there, which means you're going to figure out, what am I supposed to improve? Oh, problem skills? How do I motivate people? What is my challenge? Okay, let me communicate better. To me, it all starts with, am I passionate enough? Am I driven by the purpose of the company? That's the foundation. And if you are there, you can build everything up. Everything is learnable and teachable, in my opinion, as long as you're willing to learn and embrace the challenges and take feedback. So if I had to prioritize, relative prioritization, that's where I would start. Yeah. I'm going to assume this is an interviewer's response and answer that question. There are two types at a very high level when it comes to interviews. I would call them as behavioral, which also includes situational interviews. And then the other one is more case study, where you're solving a problem or a challenge with that interviewer. So with regards to the behavioral interview, I've always adopted and strictly followed the STAR method, which means you are focused on sharing what is needed and you're being very structured, where you're talking about the situation and the task at hand and the actions or the challenges that you had and what action you took and the result, which means you don't go into details. Because when somebody wants to ask the details, they'll ask you leading questions or follow-up questions. And I've said no, I don't know when I don't know. Because when you start making up answers in the interview, they will know it. There is a reason why they are interviewing, and the company has relied upon them, right? So I don't hesitate to say, I don't know what you're asking, but I will always say, because I mean it, that I'm willing to learn it. And how does that help me? So that, I think, matters. In case of the other type of interviews, which is where you're probably solving a problem with the interviewer, that could be a case study, or you're just actually doing a drawing board session with them. It's how are you leading the conversation, starting by being structured and taking the problem, understanding the problem by paraphrasing it, and then leading that person. So that means, are you sharing your assumptions? Are you able to take them through that by breaking that problem and being methodical versus starting somewhere, going into the details to realize that doesn't make sense. Oh, and I'm going to move you. You don't want that person to jump around the context, right? That's very important. I struggled at it a lot, and thanks to a lot of mentors I've had, you need to practice to get better at it. And I've spent hours practicing that because I'm not good at it, but I had to practice to get better. And I've seen that pay off in my interviews. And interacting with that interviewer to ask or share your assumptions and see if they're responding, or ask them clarifying questions, because that's what you're doing in real world, right? Nobody is giving you a case study with a selected set of 10 tables and ask you to solve the problem with information from there. You find that information, you seek that information. I again see this based on the type of experience that the person is coming with to the interviewer, to the interview. So if this is a person who has prior product management experience, then of course I would love to hear something you have accomplished as an initiative from end to end. That means from ideation or taking it all the way through to executing it, launching it, and supporting it. It's quite uncommon for someone to be involved at the very early stages, starting from the strategy and the roadmap. I mean, all of us aspire, but you don't get that opportunity, and that doesn't happen on a weekly or a monthly basis. So that's the kind of experience. And if you have had that experience, you will have stories to share about it. You would have done introspection to understand what would have you done better. That's my most favorite question I ask. What would you do better? I'm not looking to evaluate, did you do that project and was it successful or why it failed? Regardless of the outcome, would you have done things differently? What have you learned? So that's the one for someone coming with a product management experience. For someone who does not have product management experience, I always look at it as transferable skill sets. There are going to be key or very essential skills that are going to be transferable regardless of the role. You could be an engineer, you could be a project manager, you could actually come from a very different background, but I'm sure you've had challenges where you had to break a big problem into a smaller ones. You had to communicate effectively, right? So going back to those skill sets, how did you apply those skill sets in whatever project you were executing and what was the outcome? So following that STAR approach to explain that. So I'm able to understand it and what was the impact of that. That's what I'm looking for because that shows a person's potential and capability versus another person who has PM experience. It shows their experience and capability with some amount of potential too. Those are the two different ways, yeah. Product management is at the intersection of business, technical, and design, right? So you're not a designer, but you need to know certain or a minimum amount of knowledge about user experience and mobile app design principles versus a web design principles. And they may ask you a question, how do you want to serve your customers? Through a mobile app or a web, through a mobile responsive website? What do you want to do? So having some information or a knowledge is essential. And when I say technical knowledge, I personally don't believe that you need to know to code. That's why you have engineering team, right? But in order to engage in a conversation, and if you are telling that I want to build a mobile app, don't be surprised if an interviewer decides to probe you further and ask, well, what do you want to build? A hybrid mobile app or a native mobile app? So then as a PM interviewee, you would ideally know the difference between what is a hybrid mobile app? What are the advantages and disadvantages of a hybrid mobile app? So you're able to answer that question effectively. So it's about having this fundamental knowledge to be able to build an answer or ask an next set of questions, or even say, these are the things I would like to identify before I move forward, or would you like to share that information with me? So it becomes a conversation, and the interviewer is able to see that you're thinking along the right direction, which is what is most important for me. Yeah. Most of what I've seen amongst candidates who go through the typical recruiting process of applying for a job or being sourced by the hiring manager or the HR team members, resume speaks the most, and having a well-established LinkedIn profile with recommendations from your peers, it does not have to be about product management. Is someone willing to put their credibility at stake and recommend you? That's how I see those recommendations. If you do have experience in product management or being part of building and launching something, do be willing to bring that up during the meeting and showcase that by just talking about it. In most scenarios, I've had the interviewee pull up their website or the product they're talking about and showcase what they have worked on or the challenges they face. The last one, which I would recommend if you're willing to take that time and you are absolutely wanting that job. So if you really like that company and you would want to be in that company because that's your, I don't know, dream company or your dream product, go beyond the regular. What I did when I was finishing my MBA is I really wanted to work for this startup based out of San Francisco, being in Urbana-Champaign, a remote university town. So I decided to do my research, and based on what I thought of as product management, I put together a presentation, and this was a decade ago. So try to find and come up with their email addresses, and I shipped my presentation to the founder of the company and the CEO of the company. They did get back to me and they were impressed, but they didn't have a job for me due to a variety of reasons. But if they had the right position and if I was eligible to join the company, then it could have been different. I could have landed a job. And I've had so many of my friends who have gone down this path of doing something that shows them or makes them stand apart from all the other people. But that is one thing that I personally think is a sure shot if you absolutely want it, and just go at it. You have nothing to lose. Yeah. So, some advice that I would like to give to people who are looking to get into product management is first ask, why do you want to be a product manager? Um, Knowing that will help you understand, are you a right fit? Will you thrive in that role? And by that, I mean, it's a very beautiful job if you enjoy solving problems, but you also have to identify the problem, identify the right problem, which means you're going to deal with a lot of ambiguity. And you need to come out of that ambiguity on your own and make sure others around you are being guided through that process. And you have to be comfortable with that level of ambiguity. Do you like ambiguity? Do you enjoy ambiguity? Do you like going through the process from being ambiguous to that aha moment of, I think this is it, but let me validate it first? If you enjoy that journey, you're going to love it. But if you don't like ambiguity, you like being given directions and clarity almost always, it may not be the right fit. The second one is no 2 days are alike for a PM. Yes, you'll be in meetings, but the type of meetings or the type of problems you're solving are going to be different. So, are you okay with not having a monotonous, I don't want to use the word monotonous, but a consistent schedule? Are you comfortable with some level of chaos? And when it comes to startup, it's going to be fast paced, it's going to be exhilarating, and more chaos. Nothing comes free. So, as a package, are you able to enjoy that? Because if you cannot enjoy that, it might not be the right fit. I love the fact no 2 days are alike because I cannot do it. Like, I cannot do the same thing over and over. The last is you need to understand how to apply data and qualitative analysis. And that means you always have to keep learning. Learning never stops. I'm constantly learning. I'm always looking to understand, how are other product managers solving problems? What are the challenges you're solving? I want to understand what designers are doing. That's the beauty of a product manager's job. You just don't learn about what you do. You're learning about how is another roles that you work with closely is also evolving because it impacts you directly. So you should be able to enjoy that learning process and be comfortable that you will never know everything always. And there is beauty in that too. Yeah. So just be comfortable with the unknowns. And as long as you're comfortable being uncomfortable, you'll do well.